one thing we had on accounts is basically, we have an Active Directory central authentication server that has the user accounts. We also use Google Workspace for our email. And so with that being said, if a user account was compromised or something happened with their account, we would find out after the fact most of the time. And so by using managed methods, we've been able to set up a policy that happens automatically that if a user logs in, say from out of the USA, that it automatically suspends that user's account. If a user tries too many times to get into their account with the wrong password, it sends an alert and automatically suspends their account as well if they are unsuccessful trying to log in too many times with a password. So it just automated that process for me of not having to worry about a user account being compromised. And if it gets compromised outside of the USA, that it would be suspended automatically in Gmail. And as well as we have some things in place for it to happen on the AD side as well, but mostly in Gmail Workspace. We started out with Exchange as our email client, and we've since moved everyone to Google Workspace. And so it's, again, just allows me to sleep at night, not having to worry about someone account being compromised and I'm not finding out until the next morning. Is that if it happens, then right away, thanks to Managed Methods support staff, we set up a policy that it happens automatically.
I think that's a great thing. I like the I like the whole sleep well at night thing. Charles, maybe show the audience and some live examples here of what Reginald's talking about.
Absolutely. So this is our Login Analyzer tool. It's a complement to some of the other features we have around login activity, but this is a really nice way to dive into login activity and see where users are logging in from and give some very valuable information that way. So lots of ways to filter and to search on here directly. But one of the first things you can do here is you'll see the high level information. So you'll see when did this login occur with a date and timestamp here, who was the user in question, what was the IP address, what was the location that they actually logged in from, what was the internet service provider, and then what was the event type here. So we can apply a lot of different filters here on top of this to really narrow down what you're looking at. So this unapproved here is the geofencing that we do have there. So out of the box by default, Managed Methods is going to be the US is an approved country and then the rest of the world is unapproved. You can adjust that geofencing if you'd like, but that's the standard there. And then the other thing we can do is look at successful logins there. So now what this is going to do is look at the successful logins from outside the US. In this test environment, we have quite a few. So with this, we could go ahead and pick any of these accounts at random here that we're looking at or dive into them further. But lots of good information here to understand what's going on. And then complementing this would be the policies themselves here. But first off, before I do that and hop over to policies, you can click into the event itself and I'll also see how that user actually logged in. Did they use their Google password or did they use something else to access the account here? And then the policies will tie into that directly here. And those will be our login policies. So we have two primary ones we utilize, one that looks for any suspicious logins from outside the US, and then one that looks at any login successes from outside the US here. With these, you can then choose to either suspend the account or reset the user's password. So either option is perfectly fine. Some people take the approach of warning end users. I've seen quite the large range of things, but whatever you feel is best for your particular district and your particular needs. Definitely these suspending users are a great option if you do notice that you have a lot of accounts logging in from odd locations, or maybe if it's the case if you have a lot of accounts that are for some reason using VPNs or things like that. Sometimes we do see VPNs pop up where they'll be logging in from a really odd location, but you'll notice that the internet service provider is very strange. It's not one that you would commonly see or really would make a whole lot of sense there. So then if you do set your remediation, much like what you saw on the content side, on the app side, it's ready to go. Just go ahead and choose if you want to go ahead and notify end users that you've suspended their accounts. In this case, wouldn't make too much sense because the account's been suspended. That more would tie in with password resets potentially or things like that. And then you can also choose to notify admins to receive an immediate notification when the suspension or password reset or whatever remediation you took did occur actually here. And one of the other things that Reginald mentioned there is the number of logins. So we do also have the ability to set policies around total number of logins within a time period or the distinct number of logins within a time period. Both can be very helpful as well too if you are noticing some odd login activity, give you a good sense of things. So if someone is deciding to just bounce all over the place, and that's usually what we tend to see with a compromised account, is it'll log in from the Philippines, it'll log in from Japan, it might log in from the United States at one point potentially, and then it'll jump over into Spain maybe, and then somewhere else. So we might see some kind of jumping all over the place. These total and distinct logins can be really helpful in looking for those kinds of events too.
Thanks, Charles. I think we've got a question that popped up from the audience, and I think Justin talked about this before, but on the email side, show the folks how we take a look at emails, the ability to search emails, and then also how we see phishing and potential threats like that.
Absolutely. So this is our Gmail tab here. Right now I'm on our live email search, which is a live API call throughout the whole domain. But before I jump into that, I'll talk about this graph here at the top. So this is a really easy visual indication to let you know what kinds of things are going on in email. So do you have risks in email? Do you have phishing in email? We use two services to look for potential phishing within an email. And we're looking at things, we're an API-based platform again. So we look at things once they actually get into the user's inbox. If they actually manage to get through other various layers of security and actually hit your inbox or your user's inboxes, that's what we'd be directly looking at here. So you can then click into the emails themselves to take a look at where the email ended up. So in this case, we can see it's just in the mailbox of this particular teacher account here. If it was in the spam or trash, that would be denoted here as well. There'd be a little tag right next to that to let you know that. You can take a look at who actually received this email here directly. And then you can take a look here at what actually got flagged here. So we can see here the URL, what the particular phishing URL got flagged by. So in this case, it got flagged by Google Web Risk API. We also use Fish Tank to look for phishing URLs as well too. So those are the two services we do use to look for phishing URLs and when it got scanned on and the actual threat type. Now we can also set policies as well to take automatic action on potential phishing emails, or you can take manual action to go ahead and delete those emails. There's the option to quarantine an email, which will just go ahead and move that email over to the user's trash. So a lot of times we see that as a common remediation type if there is a phishing email, because if you just move it to user's trash, you could still come over here to the restore button, give it back to the user if it turned out to be a false positive, though the number of phishing URLs it's usually pretty spot on with what it's picking up there. You also do have the ability to download the message body. You can preview the email to take a look at it as well here too. So that's where we would be taking a look at things like phishing or other issues potentially within the email. And then one of the other common things that people might run into are issues around where maybe it's a spear phishing email, or maybe you've have an incident where an admin for some reason emailed everyone in the domain, they hit the reply all button. So this is where the live email search can come into play. So the live email search is a live API call throughout the entire domain to locate whatever specific emails you need to find. The limitation on this is it cannot find emails that have been completely deleted out of the domain. So it does have to be emails currently existing within the domain here. So with this, you just fill out as much information as you know about the email in question, and then you can go ahead and run the search here. So if I run a fairly simple search here looking for the emails that this administrator account sent, it'll go ahead and pull up the various emails in question. I can go ahead and click the View Emails button here. I'll be able to see the sender of the email here, which we know who that was already. The subject of the emails in question, I can see when these emails got sent. The recipients, which would be this particular student account here. Could also go ahead and preview that email to take a look at it here directly. Or I could come through and delete these emails. So if it is a case of a spear phishing incident, you could go through and mass delete out emails very quickly here. Or if it is an admin account that accidentally sent an email domain-wide, same idea, go through and delete a lot of emails out very quickly. I've even seen people use it to delete specific threads on email. So a lot of flexibility with that live email search to really dive in, find the emails you need to locate, potentially take a look at them, or even delete them if you need to as well.